Welcome to Watch It Real. I'm Ira Jersey, the men's general manager of Real Central New Jersey Soccer, and I'm here with a Real Central New Jersey native. It's Jake Nerwinski. He is a defender for the Vancouver Whitecaps, but he's a Lawrenceville native. He went to Notre Dame High School and played his college ball at UCONN. And so, Jake, we really appreciate you coming back and talking to some folks from your local neck of the woods where you grew up.
Yeah, no problem at all. I know we have a lot in common, so I'm happy to be doing this.
So as everyone knows, I live in Lawrenceville. My son goes to Notre Dame High School. Jake, you went to Notre Dame. Talk to me a little bit about soccer growing up. So I know you played at NJSA for a while, but where did you first start playing when you were like really young? Like, what's your first soccer memory?
Yeah, I grew up in Jackson, New Jersey for most of my childhood, 7 or 8 years ago now. So I grew up playing, for Jackson Soccer Club, the rec. I can remember back to when I was 4 years old, still playing in the pug goals. I always used to take it very seriously. I would get mad if I never scored. So I always had that kind of mentality where I wanted to be the best, even when I was, from a young age. So, yeah.
So maybe mention to us a little bit then when you moved up to the Lawrence area, or you went to school at Notre Dame. What brought you to Notre Dame, firstly, and secondly, was it to play soccer, or was it for the academic experience, or both?
Yeah, first of all, I think definitely both. My parents wanted me to get a good education, and my dad actually went to Notre Dame. My aunt, my uncle, I have a lot of cousins, second cousins, great aunts that all went to the school. So it was kind of ingrained in me early that I was going there. I can remember time when I was probably about 11 or 12. My dad brought me to Mercer County Community College to watch Notre Dame play Steiner in a Mercer County final. And when I got there was about like 2,000, 3,000 people there. And I was just in awe of what was going on. I didn't never experience, a high school game that could have so many fans and have such a great, atmosphere. And I was like, I need to be here. I need to go here. I need this to be me. So that's kind of what really drew me in.
So in 1 year at Notre Dame, you had 21 goals and 19 assists. I think that's still a record. Although Danny Bench in the last couple of years has attempted to unseat you, but I think
I've been watching.
Well, that's great. So I've actually had the honor of doing the color commentary for a couple of games this past year in the playoffs, and watch Danny score a few goals. But talk about some of the rivalries that occurred even when you were in high school, just playing high school soccer. So things like the Mayor's Cup when it's Lawrence High School versus Notre Dame, or some of your playoff games like in the Mercer County tournament when you were at Notre Dame. How did those feel at a relatively young age, having those big rivalries?
Yeah, when I first started playing as a freshman in varsity, I didn't really realize what, a rivalry was. It was never used to, you're used to playing, just other town teams where you didn't really know people. But when you play like a Lawrence High or Steiner, those run deep, that I know it's been, rivalries for years. My dad tells me all the time, he still brings it up when you beat Steiner in his high school years. So it's something that has, stood the test of time. So, when we first started playing, I think, so Lawrence, Princeton and Steiner were always the big games to get up for. We used to have them at night, so it kind of made it a little bit more special to get fans out too. So that's something that I still miss to this day, because it was always great to have those bragging rights when you win.
So if we talk a little bit about, I'm going to kind of rush through your college experience a little bit, but you decided to go to UConn. You played quite a lot of soccer there. But talk to us about the transition from the high school game to the college game. I mean, obviously a step up, but how big of a step, and did it take you a little while kind of to bed in as a college player?
Yeah, I think at each level, where I made that step up, I always look at, what the difference is, and the difference is kind of consistent. It's always the speed of play. I remember when I took the step from high school to college, the first few training sessions was kind of wild. I felt a little bit out of place. I was a little intimidated with how fast and how strong and how athletic these guys were. So that was something that I definitely had to get accustomed to quick. It took a few games for me to establish myself as a starter in my freshman year. I think it was about 9 games until I really started to make an impact. And that was kind of the same going into professionally as well. It's another step up with that speed of play.
So, you mentioned the speed of play, but also I'm wondering, did you do anything to stay fit, or did you play any soccer over the summer to prepare yourself for the collegiate season before you started to report in August?
Yeah. So before I went for preseason, my dad kind of sat me down that you can control, and that's your fitness and that's your athleticism, and you need to make sure that you're going to be the fittest guy coming into preseason because you want to make a name for yourself. You want the coach to see you. So that's something that I did, all summer. I worked my butt off. I tried to be as fit as possible. I lifted, I ran every single day. And when I went into, the first day of preseason, the yo-yo test, and I finished first out of, everybody, all the seniors, juniors, everybody on the team. And that definitely, set me aside from other freshmen in the group.
What, out of curiosity, and I'm kind of going back here a little bit, but using your relatively recent expertise in playing the collegiate game and moving from high school, one of the things that we're trying to do at Real Central New Jersey is give an opportunity to talented high school players to actually train with our college age players. Do you think if you had an opportunity to do something like that might have even elevated your game even a little bit more when you're, say, a junior or going into your junior year or going into your senior year of high school, just having that experience to play with very talented 21, 22-year-old college players?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would have loved to do that. I just remember, I think I was playing, summer leagues with, the guys that are the same age as me. So I think, being able to play with a little bit older guys that, have developed more, more physical, faster, better, more skillful. I think that helps. That will help immensely for guys, in high school right now trying to make that jump.
Thanks very much for that. I just want to mention one name. So Ethan Vanacore Decker, who attended the Pennington School. So, you guys, I don't think ever actually played against each other in high school. That was an unfortunate.
No, we wish we did, though.
I'm sure. So he attended UCONN for a little while too. And so talk to us a little bit about when you traveled around or when you had roommates in college. How important was it to have other, college players like I guess with you? Like, what's that relationship like being in a dorm room or on a bus and then at a hotel when you're playing in away games? Like, so when you talk to a guy like Ethan Vanacore Decker, who's also another professional player at Union Omaha right now, how is it developing those relationships?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, Ethan was a big part of me going to UConn. Going into my junior senior year, I was hurt a little bit, my club soccer, so I wasn't really getting recruited by a lot of people. Ethan was one of the top players in the country at the time, maybe even the #1 recruit. So I remember, him and his dad, Ed, actually helped me out a lot. They got me in touch with the head coach, and I was able to, get a roster spot pretty much because of him. So I do owe a lot to him. We do have a good friendship. We roomed together our freshman year. I think it's always great to, have that chemistry with somebody where, you know them before, you're friends with them, and you can bring that chemistry onto the field as well. So it's something that was really special for us.
So he played club soccer with you. Is that right as well?
Yes. Yeah. And JSA. Yep.
Right. So then, you're sitting there at I guess your senior year of college. You've just finished your season. You had an okay season, and you then get invited maybe to the MLS Combine. So was that something you were expecting? Was it something you had to put your name in for? Like how did that process happen? How did you find out you were going to be invited to the Combine to maybe be drafted by Major League Soccer?
Yeah, so only a few players for conference really get invited. Some from any conference don't get invited. So it's really kind of a crapshoot, to some extent. I think I owe a lot to my coach, Ray Reed, for really fighting for me. He's a big name in NCAA Division I. He's, won national championships. He's one of the most decorated coaches. So I think having him on my side, him backing me, him trying to get me into the Combine, really helped.
So, so you get into the combine, you probably show pretty well, especially given your talent for fitness, as you mentioned. But then, you go to the United Soccer Coaches Convention, which, they're not doing the draft there anymore, but, or you get ready for the draft. What was it like? Like, what did you and your family and your friends, like what kind of stuff did you kind of prepare yourself for? And, firstly, and secondly, did you have an idea about who was thinking about drafting you, or if you were going to get drafted? Because I know, there's a lot of guys that get left undrafted after a couple of rounds of the MLS draft.
Yes, the 24 hours leading up to the combine was a whirlwind for me. So I had an agent that was helping me, that, I wasn't really signed with him yet. He was kind of just helping me through the process of the whole combine and, trying to get drafted. So the night before the draft, I remember talking to him about 9 p.m. He calls me and he's like, yeah, I don't think you're going to go in the first, second, or third round, maybe fourth. So maybe it's not the best idea for you to even go to the draft. So then, after I get off the phone with him, I tell my parents we're upset. And then he calls me back again 2 hours later, about 11 p.m. And he goes, all right, you have a chance now going in the second round. So I'll let you know, maybe you should go to the draft. And about like 1:32 a.m., I'm still up, I can't sleep anyway, he calls me again and he goes, all right, I just got some word that there's a very good chance that you're going to go, in the late first round. So do you have a suit? Are you ready to go? And I had a suit, luckily, but yeah, I didn't sleep at all the night before. It was crazy. And even going into the, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to ask then, so two quick questions. I mean, I know at the combine, you're often brought in by coaches and general managers and others to speak with you. How many teams had you spoken with? So did you have an idea about maybe who was thinking about you, like who maybe had a good who you had a good discussion with?
Yeah, it's I spoke with almost every team. It's kind of a usual thing, guys at the combine. They, every team kind of wants to get to know everybody, their personality, their character, and who they are. So I had a few good talks. I did have a very good talk with Vancouver, and I did remember that. I also remembered that I had a good talk with the New York Red Bulls, which I was very happy about, because I would have loved, at the time, I would have loved to play at home, stay in New Jersey. But
they just had won a supporter shield. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like but I remember I called my parents. I was like, I think, Red Bulls, I think this could be, something. But yeah, so there was only like 2 or 3 teams where I felt good about, and still had no idea. Even going into the draft day, I remember I was sitting there, the first 5-6 picks went ahead. And then right before the 7th pick was about to be, said by the commissioner, my agent taps me on the back and he goes, you're going to be drafted right now. And then 5 seconds later, he says my name, and I was just shocked. I didn't even stand up. I remember my dad was sitting next to me, and he actually physically lifted me up. He's like, you need to go to the stage. So it was a pretty quick and surreal moment.
Yeah. So did you have an index card with a little bit of a speech or anything, or did you just say like, thanks, coach, thanks, dad, mom and dad?
Yeah, so I had no idea what to say. I wasn't even thinking at the time. I still don't even know what I really said, because I don't want to watch it back, because I embarrassed myself. But I remember my mom, my aunt, and one of my best friends were actually there as well. And I just heard them scream. Nobody else said it. Like, they were just, celebrating. So that kind of brought me back down. So I was like, all right, I can relax now. I can just talk to them. So that's what I did.
That's great. Yeah. So you get drafted 7th overall, like you just said, in the MLS draft, and ironically, you just talked about the New York Red Bulls, and you made your debut for the Vancouver Whitecaps, who ultimately signed you. So firstly, what's it like in that couple of weeks, I guess, after the draft? You obviously have to report to preseason, and you have to, in your case, fly across country, right? Go from Connecticut over to out to Vancouver. You have to get your international transfer certificate, I suppose. All that paperwork that has to get done. I take it most of that's done probably by the front office and your agent. But what was that process like, as this this not quite college graduate, going and reporting to this professional team?
Yeah, I think it was about maybe 4 days after the draft I had to report for preseason because we were leaving for Wales earlier than most teams because we had the Champions League game. So I didn't even think twice. I was just, kind of going with it. I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to Canada now, then I'm going to Wales for preseason. It all happened so quick that I don't even think I had time to really digest what was happening. Ooh, sorry, I can't hear you right now.
Thank you. I occasionally don't hit the mute button quite hard enough, and it winds up. I wind up being muted. But so you end up coming back to North America. You're getting ready to play, and ultimately you're called up to play in your very first professional match, being paid as a soccer player against the New York Red Bulls in the CONCACAF Champions League. When do you find that out as a player? Like, is it the day before? Is it, you show up at the venue, a couple of hours before, and there's a list on the wall? Like, what is that process like? Finding out that you're going to be playing your very first professional match.
Yeah, so usually you find out the starting lineup about 4 or 5 days before. I knew that the other right back at the time was injured, so I knew I had a good chance of playing. But yeah, like about 4 days before I found out that I was starting, so I did have a lot of time to prepare. I had a lot of time to tell my parents, to get tickets. I remember, I think there was about 60 to 70 family and friends there. So it was a really special moment to be able to make my professional debut, in my home state, with all my friends and family, watching. I ended up giving up a PK in my first professional game, which was, I just remember when it happened, I was like, this is what I'm going to be remembered for. It's the PK in this game. But
you reminded me, I was at that match. I can't say that I remember you giving up the PK, but
that's it. I don't think it was a PK. I'm going to say it was a dive, so whatever. That's fine. But
do you remember who it was? Who was the Red Bull player who?
It was Royer, Daniel Royer.
Good player. It was Danny Royer.
But, yeah, he flopped. But
Austrians playing in North America.
Yeah, our goalie bailed me out though, so it was all good.
There you go.
Made a good save.
So you've now played 104 matches for the Vancouver Whitecaps. So that's basically you're a regular starter. You only miss a few matches every season. What is it like, this year versus previous years? I mean, obviously you had the bubble down in Orlando and for the MLS's back tournament, and then you had a kind of a weird regular season. What's it been like not having fans and not having the same, atmosphere and electricity around stadiums during match days compared to the previous years that you've played?
Yeah, to be fair, the first few games we didn't have fans. It was really odd. You usually, get a little extra burst of energy when you're hearing fans, even if you're away. I think I actually get more energy when you're playing away, when fans are booing you and all that. So it was a very interesting and weird year. We hope that we have fans next year. We don't want to go through that again. But I think as a Canadian team, we had it a lot harder. We weren't allowed to play in Canada, so we had to actually moved to Portland for the remainder of the season. It was like 2.5 months. So that was very difficult as well, being away from family for that long, playing 3 games a week. It was pretty draining. So it's an interesting year. It's a year that I hope that we don't have to have again.
Yeah, all of us do for sure. So hopefully the vaccine gets distributed as quickly as possible, and we can get back into the stadium. It's something that I know a lot of soccer supporters certainly miss. So a couple of kind of, I don't want to say strange questions, but kind of questions about your soccer life outside of being a professional soccer player, and that's things like how much soccer do you watch on TV, and do you play any soccer related video games regularly, or are you kind of soccered out after spending so much time on the pitch during the week?
I love FIFA. I play FIFA all the time with my buddies. That never gets old. I always watch the Prem. I like Manchester United. That's my team. Haven't been great for a few years, but hopefully Bruno Fernandes will help us bring us back up to the top of the table. But yeah, I mean, I love, waking up, watching. I like learning from, other outside backs, from other right backs. I like to watch their play. So I always kind of take it as a learning process as well when I watch the games.
So my son will be very happy to learn that you're a United supporter, because he is
Nice.
as well. I'm an Aston Villa supporter. I was
Oh,
it was a very long time ago that I became a Villa supporter. So
yeah.
way longer than you've been alive. So we'll just go with that. And so two last questions for you. One is, did you have any rituals or like pregame routines, things that you just have to kind of do to make sure that the game's going to go okay? You have any rituals like that?
I think the only thing I really make sure is that I have the same socks that I wear every game. I think that's like a kind of a standard one for a lot of guys. And I always have to listen to reggae music before. I like to chill out, mellow out before games. I know a lot of guys, some like to listen to heavy metal or get really pumped up, but I like to be more calm when I play. So socks and reggae music, that's me.
Nice. And finally, we started in the beginning of our conversation talking about your time in the Mayor's Cup here in Lawrenceville at Notre Dame, and some of the other rivalries in high school. But you're part of the Cascadia Cup now. So how are those matches different than your everyday match where you might go play San Jose or Real Monarchs or excuse me, Real Salt Lake, or different places, different teams like that? How is that little 3-team Cascadia rivalry different from a player's perspective versus the supporter's perspective?
I remember my first Cascadia match was against Seattle, in Seattle at CenturyLink, and we played a few games before that, maybe 5 or 6. And when we walked out for the starting lineups, 65,000 people screaming, going crazy. It's a completely different game when you play against rivals in the MLS. It's pretty special. It's a game that a lot of us love to get up for. We love the atmosphere. It's something really special. I think Seattle and Portland have probably two of the best fan bases in the league.
Great. Well, Jake, thanks very much for coming on Watch It Real. Really appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. I'm really looking forward to what you guys are doing here. We're really excited. My dad and I have been talking about this for years. We want to bring a professional atmosphere to Mercer County because it's so rich in its soccer roots. So I love what you're doing. Hopefully I can come out, and see some games, see some training sessions when everything's good again.
Great. Thanks very much.